I hope you've been well. I received your assignment 1. That was good work. Cut 1. Have you done cut 1? Cut 1 ishafanyika? Tabitha?
No.
Jafanya kwa nini? I need cut 1 before the end of tomorrow. Mliona penye iko cut 1 ama mnangoja niwatumie kwa WhatsApp? Niliwatumia kwanza kwa WhatsApp.
Hapana.
Lakini iko hapa kwa nini? Kwa ZDS. Hamkuiona hapa kwa hizi after topic ya last week penye tulisoma last week, hapo chini hamkuona cut 1. Okay, nitawatumia pia kwa WhatsApp, but I need it by tomorrow.
Tunaituma kwa ZDS.
Iko hapo kwa ZDS, itaituma tena kwa WhatsApp. So kesho before the end of tomorrow, nikisema end of tomorrow namaanisha before tomorrow midnight, kwa email address tu vile mlituma assignment. Kwa email vile mlituma assignment, hivyo tu ndio mtatuma.
Oh.
Okay, now let's begin our class. Sawa. Let's begin our class. I know you've seen the topic. We are talking about food preparation and cooking methods. But this is a long topic yenye hatutamaliza leo. So we are going to do this topic today as well as next week. So today and next week we are dealing with food preparation methods and methods of cooking. So we are going to begin with the first part. And before we write anything, I want you to understand that there is preparation and there is production. Preparation is what we do before the use of heat. Before tuanze kupika, tuweke kwa moto. That is preparation. Kitu kama kuosha, kama ni sukuma, kutoa hiyo stock, kuzikatakata, that is preparation. Then when we come to production, now production is the actual cooking, the use of heat. So nikisema kitu kama stewing, braising, frying, hizo tunatumia moto. Now that is cooking. But if it is preparation, let's say we are cooking beef, nyama ya ng'ombe. Before we cook it, before we produce that beef stew yenye inapikwa, hiyo nyama lazima ikue imekatwa. Kama iko na mafuta, imetolewa mafuta ile excess. Pia imekuwa season. We usually season meat before tupike, na hiyo seasoning inaitwa marination ama marinating. So it must be marinated. So something like marinating, chopping ama cutting, trimming kutoa excess mafuta. Hizo ziko kwa preparation. Now, when I start talking about preparation, because it is going to be our first subtopic in this particular topic, we are also going to group them according to the type of foods. Tujue kama ni vegetables, what are the common preparation procedures? Kama ni nyama, the common preparation procedures. Kama ni cereals ama pulses, vitu kama beans, where do we start? Before tuzie kwa moto, lazima kama ni beans tunazisort. So kuna sorting, kuna kusoak, such kind of things. So when we talk of preparation and cooking, we are looking at two different dimensions. One before cooking and the other one during cooking. So write our first subtopic, which is food preparation methods. Food preparation methods. So under that, let's write this statement, food preparation methods. Then we write, preparation is the process that foodstuffs have to go through. Preparation is the method that foodstuffs have to go through before they are ready to be cooked. Preparation is the process that foodstuffs have to go through before they are ready to be cooked. So hata kabla ziwekwe kwa moto, what we do to them, that is preparation. Another sentence, different foodstuffs may need different preparation methods. Different foodstuffs may need different preparation methods. Different foodstuffs may need different preparation methods. And here are some of them. Different foodstuffs may need different preparation methods, and here are some of them. Full colon. So we are going to give examples of kama ni vegetables, kama ni meat, kama ni pulses, tuone which preparation methods they give. So here are some of them. Full colon. Number 1, vegetables. Vegetables. So under vegetables, right, they may need various preparation methods such as so kuna zile vitu zenye utafanya kama unapika vegetable. Kama uko na sukuma, kama uko na carrot, kama uko na cabbage, there are things you will do to that cabbage before you actually cook. For example, kama ni sukuma, you will wash. So number 1 is washing. That is the first method. Washing. There is a reason why we wash. To remove loose dirt. To remove loose dirt. And when we are washing, we use running water. So you use running water to wash your vegetables to remove any loose dirt. Another one, Roman 2, peeling. Peeling. Kama uko na carrot, before you cook the carrot, after you've washed, you are going to peel. Kama tuseme ni potatoes, utaosha alafu utapeel to remove the outer cover. So peeling. Using a suitable peeler or knife. Using a suitable peeler or knife, the outer skin is carefully removed. Using a vegetable peeler or a suitable peeler or knife, the outer skin is removed. Roman 3, another preparation we do to vegetables. Stalking. Kutoa stalk. Kama ni sukuma, kutoa ile mti ya stima ya sukuma hiyo ni kustalk. Kutoa stalk. So it's known as stalking. 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 Then right, this is removing unwanted stalks on the leafy vegetables. This is removing unwanted stalks on the leafy vegetables to suit the texture of the dish. To suit the texture of the dish. E.g. spinach and kales. Spinach and kales. Now, for instance, we usually have a dish known as leafy spinach. And when we are cooking leafy spinach, huwa hatukatikati hiyo spinach. Tunaipika ikiwa hivyo, the tawi, the leaf, cook it. So, for us to get that soft leaf of spinach, lazima tutoe stalk yote kutoka juu mpaka chini. We will not slice the spinach, but we will only remove the stalk. So that is known as stalking. Another procedure is known as deskinning. Deskinning. DE, then hyphen, SKINNING. Deskinning. Hiyo ni kutoa skin. Hyphen. It is mostly done to fruity vegetables. The vegetables ni watu tunaita fruit vegetables, kitu kama tomato, kuitoa skin, kuitoa skin, that is deskinning. So it is mostly done to fruity vegetables. To fruity vegetables which are not peeled. So hapa hatupeel na kisu, hatufanyi kupeel na kisu kama carrot. Which are not peeled but subjected to intense heat. Subjected to intense heat, e.g. tomatoes and capsicums. Capsicum ni hoho, e.g. tomatoes and capsicums. So what we do here, ukitaka kudiskin the tomato, tuna boil maji na tuweke hiyo tomato hapo. So hiyo tomato the skin ina loosen, inatoka. So just kuichukua na unashika hiyo skin hivi inaenda ikitoka. That is now deskinning and not peeling. Another procedure is deseeding. D-E-S-E-E-D-I-N-G. Deseeding. Deseeding ni kutoa seeds. Kutoa seeds. So deseeding hyphen. This is removing the seeds of fruity vegetables. Removing the seeds of fruity vegetables, e.g. tomato. E.g. tomato. Now, when you are cooking something like ratatouille, for practical cookery, you will see a vegetable known as ratatouille, where you are using capsicum, you are using tomatoes, you are using aubergines, you are using baby marrow. Now, you will find somewhere where they'll tell you peel, deseed, and concasse the tomato. So hiyo deseeding, unatoa seeds, unapika tomato ikiwa haina the pulp, you know, zile seeds za tomatoes za ndani unazitoa kabisa, inakuwa ngumu. So tomato inabaki kama imekuwa ngumu kama hoho, kama capsicum. That is deseeding. Now another procedure is topping and tailing. Topping and tailing. Now when we talk of topping and tailing, hii ni kutoa the top and the tail, and this one is basically used when we are dealing with French beans. I hope you know French beans. French beans huwa zinaitwa aje, the common name huku ya Kikuyu, it's like, I think zinaitwa mishiri, if you know them, those long green vegetables. So when we say topping and tailing, ni kutoa uto to tails and then the tops vile imetoka kwa mmea hivi, topping and tailing. So kutoa hizo ends the French beans. So topping and tailing hyphen. This is cutting off the edges. This is cutting off the edges of the pods of French beans and snow peas. French beans and snow peas. Ukiangalia practical cookery, I'm hoping that you have. In case hamna practical cookery, you can tell me niwatumie kwa WhatsApp group so that you are able to see those the various recipes that we have, but I think you have it because unasoma menu planning. So topping and tailing the edges of the pods of the French beans and the snow peas. Now another procedure, blanching. Blanching, B-L-A-N-C-H-I-N-G. Blanching, blanching hyphen. This is putting vegetables in boiling salty water, ama in hot salty water. It is putting vegetables in hot salty water to kill enzymes to kill enzymes and preserve the color. Kill enzymes and preserve the color. Most vegetables are usually blanched before cooking. Vitu kama skuma, kama spinach. So when you put them in hot salty water, ile green color haitapotea, itaiva ikiwa bado iko na hiyo rich green color, and also it kills enzymes. If there are any enzymes, they are killed. The last procedure, cutting. Kukata. So umeosha, peel, ukatoa seeds kama ilikuwa ya kutolewa seeds. Sasa before upike, because you cannot cook them zikiwa whole, now you need to cut. So hyphen, this is cutting vegetables into desired shapes and sizes. This is cutting vegetables into desired shapes and sizes. As we continue, you will realize that there is another topic ya vegetables, a topic known as vegetables peke yake. Now, hapo kwa vegetables, that is where we will learn about the cuts of vegetables, the different ways in which we can cut our vegetables. Next, number 2. So remember, all that was number 1. All those are preparation methods of vegetables. So number 2, we have cereals, and pulses. Cereals and pulses. Hapa tuko na cereal kama rice, that is an example, ama maize, those are cereals. Then tuko na pulses kama beans, kama peas. So these are the dry goods, mostly the dry proteins that we are talking about. That is plant origin, dry starch and proteins. So under that we write this may need various preparation methods, including Roman 1, sorting. Sorting, what is to sort? Hyphen, this is picking out foreign matter. This is picking out foreign matter in the food. Picking out foreign matter in the food, full stop. So kutoa zile vitu zenye hauhitaji, any foreign matter that is in there. Kama ni rice, you sort it to make sure it's only rice yenye unapika. Hutaki upike rice then when your customer is eating anapata nywele kwa rice, anapata mawe kwa rice ama kwa beans. So you are removing any foreign matter. Roman 2, washing. That is another preparation procedure. I know there are people who will not wash rice when cooking. Waseme ni safi. So you're supposed to wash. So washing, hyphen. This is removing loose dust and dirt. This is removing loose dust and dirt from the surface of the food. Removing loose dust and dirt from the surface of the food. So kuosha, you want to remove any loose dirt or any loose dust. Roman 3, soaking. Kusoak, soak nguo. Anytime you are having something like beans need to be soaked overnight. So soaking, hyphen. This is leaving food immersed in cold water. This is leaving food immersed in cold water for a period not more than 12 hours. This is leaving food immersed in cold water for a period not more than 12 hours. To soften the food, so there are reasons why we soak. Kama kwa nini tuna soak beans. So to soften the food and shorten cooking time. To soften the food and shorten cooking time. So that is soaking. You soak for not more than 12 hours. Another procedure, Roman 3, germinating. Germinating. Everybody knows what germination is. When something is germinating, inamaanisha it is sprouting. Inaanza, iko karibu kuanza kusprout, iko karibu kuanza kutoa the shoot. So germinating hyphen. This is soaking food for more than 48 hours. This is soaking food for more than 48 hours until the seeds shoot. Until the seeds shoot, so as to ease digestion. So kuna reason ya germinate. It eases digestion, so you make the food easily digestible. To ease digestion, and shorten cooking time. So there are two reasons why we germinate food. One is to ease digestion, the other one is to shorten cooking time. Now, the other procedure, sprouting. Sprout pia ni kumea. Sprouting. So kuna hizi three terms: soaking, germinating na sprouting. They are almost similar. The only difference ni the number of hours we soak. So kama ni simply soaking, 12 hours. We've said germinating 48 hours. Sasa tuko kwa sprouting. This is soaking for more than 72 hours. Soaking for more than 72 hours. More than 72 hours, such that the shoot grows into a stem. Such that the shoot grows into a stem, and this changes the character and texture of the food. And this changes the character and texture of the food. E.g., so here I'm going to give you an example. So when we talk of sprouting, you've soaked for 72 hours or more than 72 hours. So this means vile ilianza kugerminate, when the shoots zilianza kutoka, you did not even remove from the water. You left the shoot to continue growing until now it has become a stem. And you've said this will change two things. It will change the character of the food. It will change the texture of the food. What is character? Kama ni beans ulikuwa una soak. Beans ni protein. Now the character of the beans has changed from protein to a vegetable. Then the texture. You know that dried beans zinakuanga ngumu. Sasa because of that excessive soaking, they become soft. So again, the texture has changed from dry to soft, or from hard to tender. So e.g., bean sprouts, which are stir-fried as a vegetable. Which are stir-fried as a vegetable. Stir-fried, S-T-I-R hyphen, then fried. Stir-fried as a vegetable. So imeacha kukua protein, it is now a vegetable because of sprouting. Okay, let's continue. The other, number 3. Let's go to number 3. So number 1 ni vegetable, number 2 cereals and pulses. Number 3, here we are talking about meats. Meats, nyama. So tukiandika meats, what do we mean? Weka into bracket. You're going to give some examples into bracket. Beef, pork, poultry, fish, shellfish. Kuna tofauti ya fish na shellfish. Fish ni samaki zile zenye mnajua za kawaida kama fish fillet, tilapia fish, tuna fish. Then when we come to shellfish, shellfish ni zile fish zenye they are seafoods which do not look like fish. Vitu kama crabs, prawns, hizo ndizo shellfish. So fish, shellfish, lamb, mutton, as well as game. Game, G-A-M-E. Game ni wild animals kama nyama ya buffalo, nyama ya gazelle, nyama ya dik-dik, hizo game. So they also undergo some preparation procedures. In other words, all animal proteins undergo some preparation procedures. So we write this particular statement. This may need various preparation methods. These may need various preparation methods, such as these may need various preparation methods, such as Roman 1, washing. So we are not going to continue defining what washing is. It is simply removing loose dirt. So washing. Roman 2, trimming. Jason, what are you doing? I am doing like this. Trimming. Trimming is T-R-I-M-M-I-N-G. Trimming hyphen, you're going now. Kutrim, sawa. Kutrim ni kutoa excess mafuta. Kama ukinunua nyama ya ng'ombe ama ya beef, beef ndio ng'ombe, ama lamb, ama mutton, ama pork. And then hapo juu upate iko na the white parts za mafuta. Kutoa hiyo mafuta. That is what we call trimming. So trimming hyphen, this is removing the unwanted fat from meat. This is removing the unwanted fat from the meat. Unwanted fat from the meat. Then another procedure, Roman 3, skinning. 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 Kuskin ni kutoa skin. Now, here we are talking about meats. Kuna kutrim, kutoa mafuta. But kuna zile zenye uwezi toa mafuta unless utoe ngozi. Kama kuku, chicken. We skin the chicken. We do not trim the chicken. So skinning sana sana inatumika kwa poultry. So skinning hyphen, this is removing the skin of poultry and fish to remove excess fat. This is removing the skin of poultry and fish to remove excess fat. Then the other procedure is cutting, kukata. Cutting. Cutting hyphen, this is portioning the meat for the kind of dish to be cooked. This is portioning the meat for the kind of dish to be cooked. E.g., cubes, e.g. cubes, pengine nyama yenye unapika inataka ukate nyama into cubes. Ukiangalia recipes za practical cookery, you'll find that unapewa hadi the how to cut strips etc. So utapata kama you are making, let's say, braised lamb chunks, unakata chunks. If you are making brown mutton stew, utakata cubes. If you are making beef stroganoff, utakata strips. So the recipe usually has the specific cut of meat that you are supposed to do. The other procedure is marinating. Marinating. Hyphen. This is mixing the flesh. So the flesh ni hiyo nyama. Mixing the flesh with a marinade. Mixing the flesh with a marinade. I will tell you what a marinade is. Mixing the flesh with a marinade and leaving it to absorb the flavor and aroma. This is mixing the flesh with a marinade and leaving it to absorb the flavor and aroma and get tender before it is cooked. Leaving it to absorb the flavor and aroma and get tender before it is cooked. So you can get a question telling you to outline the importance of marinating meat or marinating chicken or marinating anything. So those are the reasons. One, to season. To season ni kuipatia flavor na aroma. And then the other one is to make the meat tender ama to soften. Now, before I go to the next one, nataka to define marinade. So just below marinating. Marinating is your Roman 5. So before tuende kwa Roman 6, write somewhere marinade. Now, what is a marinade? Tumesema kumarinate ni kuweka kwa marinade. Marinade ni hiyo mixture yenye ita season. And for it to season lazima ikuwe na some taste. So lazima ikuwe na vitu kama salt, ikuwe na vitu kama vinegar ama lemon, ikuwe maybe na kitu kama soy sauce depending on what you are marinating. So let's write this. Marinade hyphen. These are herbs, comma, spices, comma, condiments, and a little oil. These are herbs, spices, condiments, and a little oil used to season and tenderize. Used to season and tenderize meats. So herbs, spices, condiments, and a little oil used to soften or to season and tenderize meat. Now you will see many definitions of a marinade, like it is a pickling liquid. Condiments. Kuna an entire topic yenye inaitwa, let me spell for you. CONDIMENTS. Condiments. We have an entire topic yenye inaitwa herbs, spices, and condiments. So herbs, spices, and condiments, and a little oil. We have a topic known as herbs, spices, and condiments. So hapo ndio tutasoma hizo ni nini. Herbs ni vitu zimetoka kwa miti. Vitu kama dania, vitu kama parsley, vitu kama such things. I cannot remember the rest. Then kuna spices. Vitu kama pilau masala, vitu kama cinnamon, hizo ni spices. Then we have condiments. Condiments ni zile vitu huwa tunatumia tukipika na pia kwa meza. Vitu kama pilipili, kama salt, kama vinegar na mustard. Hizo nazo ni condiments. So when you look at all those things, they are things which are flavorful. They are full of flavor. We use them to add the flavor or to season the meat ikuwe na some taste. Then we now go to Roman 6, the other procedure, the other preparation procedure ya nyama. Scaling. Scaling, S-C-A-L-I-N-G. Scaling. Kuscale ni kutoa scales. Scaling. So anytime you see scaling, ujue lazima hapo kuna fish. So scaling. This is removing scales of fish. This is removing scales of fish. So anytime I say off, nasema O-double-F, C of fish, off, kutoa. Scaling is removing scales of fish. The other one is boning. Boning. B-O-N-I-N-G. Boning. This is removing bones. This is removing bones of a cut of meat or chicken. Removing bones of a cut of meat or chicken. Full stop. The other procedure is filleting. Filleting. Mnajua kuna kuwaga na fish fillets. So for you to get the fish fillet, you have to fillet them from the fish. So filleting, kutengeneza fish fillet from the fish. So filleting. This is separating flesh from bones. This is separating flesh from bones using a predetermined angle. Using a predetermined angle. Now, or angle, whatever you call it. When you look at fish fillet, vile zinakaa, they look in a similar way, meaning there is a particular way yenye huwa zinatolewa kwa fish. So that is filleting. Then we have rolling. Rolling. R-O-L-L-I-N-G. Rolling. Hyphen. This is folding meat. Folding meat layers over one another before cooking. This is folding meat layers over one another before cooking, sometimes to attain a desired shape. Sometimes to attain a desired shape. So kuna zile recipes zenye zitakwambia uroll, so kukunja, kuroll. Another procedure is stuffing. S-T-U-F-F-I-N-G. Stuffing. Stuffing. What is to stuff? To stuff ni kama kufill. You are taking things and filling them in the meat. So hyphen. Filling a natural or created cavity. Yes, kama samosa. Weka vitu ndani. So, filling a natural or created cavity. Filling a natural or created cavity with a pre-prepared filling. With a pre-prepared filling. Pre-prepared means umeshai-prepare tambo, and now you are putting it in there. For example, kuna recipes za stuffed chicken ama hata stuffed tomatoes. So, Okay, there are other preparation procedures zenye tutaandika which are not going to say what. Okay, the next procedure ni trussing. 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 What is trussing? Trussing is when we use a kitchen thread and a trussing needle. Tunashona kama ni kuku tulikuwa tumeifunganisha, tunashona inakaa haina any opening, ive ikiwa compact hivyo. That is what we call trussing. Then we have breadcrumbing. Breadcrumbing inatokana na breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbing is simply coating with breadcrumbs. Vitu kama fish fillet, tuko na fish coated with breadcrumbs, tuko na fish fingers, tuko na breadcrumbed chicken. So we coat with the breadcrumbs before we deep fry. That is all about the meats. Number 4, pastries. Number 4 ni pastries. That is another category of foods. Now hapa kwa pastries itasimamia cakes, cookies, biscuits, hizo vitu zote. In other words, all the dough products. So pastries, then we say this may need various preparation methods such as Roman 1, weighing. Weighing ni kupima. Weighing. Now these ones we are not going to be defining them because they are self-explanatory. Weighing. Tumia weighing scale kupima your ingredients. So kama unapika keki, we must weigh the flour, the sugar, the butter, kila kitu. So weighing. Another one is greasing. Greasing. GREA. Greasing. And what is to grease? Greasing is applying butter or applying fat to your baking tin. Unaipaka margarine ama butter ama mafuta ndio keki isistick kwa keki. So that is greasing. The other procedure is preheating. Preheating the oven. So what is to preheat? To preheat is to switch on the oven before you start baking. Ile time bado una mix, una make sure your oven is on. Kwa nini? Because when you start baking, ile recipe yako iko na temperature. Maybe umeambiwa bake at 200 degrees for 15 minutes. That means ukiweka kwa oven, the oven should be already at 200. Usiweke alafu ndio uwashe ianze from 0. No. So preheating the oven. Another one is rubbing in. Rubbing -in. This is a method of mixing flour and butter. Mixing flour and butter when you are making cakes or biscuits. Creaming. Creaming. Now this one is a method of mixing sugar and butter. Creaming. Another preparation procedure is whisking. Whisk. Sana sana huwa tuna whisk mayai. So ukichukua wire whisk upige zile mayai zako zikuwe na bubbles before uzitumie. That is whisking. Then we have kneading. 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 Knead ni kutengeneza ile unga ya chapo ama unga ya bread rolls. So kneading the dough. Mixing your unga ya chapati mpaka ikuwe elastic, iform a ball. That is kneading. So kama unapika chapati, you will not just take the unga na uweke kwa pan. No, you will go through the process of kneading the dough ndio uweze kuroll, tengeneze chapati. Then we have proving. 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 Proving ni kama raising, but now proving is used for yeast. products. Proving. It is used for yeast products. So ukiweka yeast when you are baking bread, yes, like bread. Ukiweka yeast when you are baking bread, unaipatia time, inafanya nini? Ina raise, inafura. Then you take it, you knock back na knead tena. Then once you shape, ukiweka bread kwa ile bread tin, unaweka tena, ina prove tena ndio una bake. So that is proving. Then tuko na rolling. Rolling kama vile huwa tuna roll chapati, roll unga tukitumia rolling pin. Rolling. Then tuko na egg washing. Egg washing. Egg washing. Egg wash ni kupaka mayai. When your product is finally ready to get into the oven. Kama ni bread roll, unapaka mayai pale juu ndio unaingiza kwa oven. The reason why we egg wash is to give it a shine, make it shiny, and also give it a rich brown color. Then the last procedure ni blind baking. Blind baking. And what we call blind baking is when we do not want our product to raise. Utaki product yako raise kama keki. And this one is commonly when you are making tarts and flans. Tuko na a whole topic, an entire topic inaitwa yeast and yeast products, another topic ya cakes, another topic ya yeast products. So we'll talk about these things in depth. Today we are just mentioning them as some preparation procedures that are used before we start the actual preparation or cooking of our food. So now I am done with preparation methods, and give me like 5 minutes to introduce cooking methods. So next I'm going to introduce cooking methods, talk about the methods of cooking. Now, does anyone have a question about the preparation methods before I introduce methods of cooking? Anyone with a question on preparation, food preparation methods? Okay, maswali za preparation methods before I begin cooking methods? Anyone? Sawa, no question. Cooking methods sijaanza. Cooking methods ndizo nataka kuanza. Cooking methods ndizo nataka kuanza. Now, preparation, I talked about, I categorized them from vegetables. Vegetables was number 1, pulses was number 2, but now, okay, oh, seems you've joined the class late. Then you will just have to check the recording because I've recorded the entire class from the beginning. So you will see it for recording. You will replay the recording. Huko mwanzo ikianza, you will be able to see the various preparation methods in those categories. So now, methods of cooking. That is our next subtopic. Methods of cooking. And as I said when I was beginning the class, this is a wide topic. So food preparation and cooking methods is a wide topic because we have various, like we've seen, tuko na hizo methods, and we have various methods of cooking, and each method has got its own content. So as when I began the class, I said this is a topic that we are not going to entirely cover today. Tutaimaliza next week. So for now, under methods of cooking, let's start by defining what cooking is, or what do we call cooking? What is cooking? So let's define cooking. So we write cooking is the preparation of food for eating Cooking is the preparation of food for eating, which usually involves heat application, full stop. Preparation of food for eating, which usually involves heat application. So ndio tuseme umepika, lazima utumie heat, moto. So that is what we call cooking. Write a subtopic. Reasons for cooking food. Reasons for cooking food. This one is a very common question in production. Reasons for cooking food. Or rather, why do we cook food? Why don't we just eat it? Kama ni nyama, mbona tusitoe kwa ng'ombe and eat it? Najua Wamasai huwa wanakula. Lorato, is that true? So why do we cook? Why don't we just eat food raw the way it is? Najua there are foods that we can eat raw, but there are others that we don't eat raw. So, reason number one, to make it safe to eat. To make it safe to eat by destroying the microorganisms and toxins. Jason, what are you doing? I am playing. With what? This one and the bladder. To make it safe to eat by destroying the microorganisms and toxins present in food. Microorganisms and toxins present in food. Full stop. So that is one reason. The first reason why we cook food is to make it safe to eat. When you cook, the heat destroys what? Toxins, and it also kills the bacteria, the microorganism which might be present in food. Reason number two, to make it tender, digestible, and palatable. To make it tender, digestible, and palatable. You want to soften the meat, you kuifanya ikuwe tender. You want to make it digestible, make it easy to digest, and you also want to make it palatable, ikuwe inakulika. So tender, digestible, and palatable. That is the other reason. Reason number three, to produce a desired flavor, texture, and eating quality. To produce a desired flavor, texture, and eating quality. There is the flavor that you want. Kama unataka vanilla ice cream, you will introduce the vanilla flavor. If you need strawberry ice cream, you're going to introduce the strawberry flavor. If you need a chocolate cake, you're going to introduce the chocolate flavor. So you want to make it into a flavor that you want. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Reason number three, I have said, to produce a desired flavor, comma, texture, and eating quality. produce desired flavor, texture, and eating quality. In other words, you are going to bring the flavor that you want, you are going to bring the texture that you want. Texture means how is it? Is it soft? Is it hard? Is it rough? So the texture that you want. That's why if you want dry, you're going to use a dry method of cooking. If you want wet food, you're going to use a wet method of cooking. So you have a choice of introducing whichever texture of food that you want. Reason number 4, to increase the desire to eat. To increase the desire to eat by making the food more attractive to the eyes. So that is another reason, to increase the desire to eat by making the food more attractive to the eyes. So you want to make the food appetizing, make it look nice, smell nice, such. Then the last reason, number 5, to increase the storage life for short-term storage. To increase the storage life for short-term storage. So for instance, those foods which are highly perishable, kama vegetables. So you cook them so that the storage life can at least lengthen, even though it is for a short period of time. Now, those are the reasons for cooking food. Let's have another subtopic. Factors influencing the choice of cooking method. Factors influencing the choice of cooking method. So in other words, we are looking at which factors will we consider when we want to choose a cooking method. What will make you choose boiling over roasting? What will make you choose frying over baking? There are many factors to be considered for you to settle on a particular method of cooking. Number 1, or before you write number 1, write this sentence. The choice will depend on the following. So the choice of a cooking method will depend on the following. The choice will depend on the following. Number 1, the food to be cooked. What are you cooking? Kama unapika githeri, you are not going to bake githeri. You will have to boil githeri. Kama ni chapati, you cannot boil chapati. You will have to fry chapati. So the food you are cooking will dictate the method of cooking that you will use. Number 2, the type of person to be catered for. The type of person to be catered for. Who are you cooking for? Are you cooking for an old person? Are you cooking for a child? Are you cooking for a sick person? Are you cooking for an athletic or a footballer? Who are you cooking for? Number 3, personal taste. Personal taste. Like, what is your preference? Personal taste become a personal preference. So you're going to cook according to what you want. Personal taste. So what do you prefer? Personal taste. Point number 5. I don't know if it's number 5 or number 4. Time available for cooking. Time available for cooking. Now, when we start looking at the methods themselves, you'll realize there are quick methods of cooking and slower methods of cooking. Let's take, for example, an egg. When you compare frying an egg and boiling an egg, frying the egg will take a shorter time than boiling the egg. So now, depending on how much time do I have, I want to take the egg, yes, but how much time do I have available to either fry or boil? So time available. Next, the type of fuel available. The type of fuel available. We looked at fuel as a topic last week actually. Tukaona kuna gas, kuna biogas, kuna charcoal, kuna wood, all those. So the type which is available will also dictate the method of cooking that you are going to use. Next point, the amount of food to be cooked. The amount of food to be cooked. There are those methods which are suitable for a lot of food, like boiling. Unaweza boil rice ya watu wengi ama githeri ya watu wengi. So the amount of food to be cooked. So whether you are cooking a lot of food or some little food, that will dictate which method will be more suitable. Then the last point, the equipment available for cooking. The equipment available for cooking. So which equipment do you have which can enable you use a particular method of cooking? Now, those are the factors to consider when choosing a cooking method. Write a statement down there. Methods of cooking are divided into two categories. Methods of cooking are divided into two categories. Namely, number one, dry methods. Dry methods, hyphen. These are methods that produce dry food. These are methods that produce dry food. And then number two, moist stroke wet. We call them moist methods. We also call them wet methods. So that is number two, moist stroke wet. Hyphen. These produce wet foods. These produce wet foods, wet products. Now, when we are talking of dry methods and wet methods, dry methods use dry heat and the product is dry. For example, when we are roasting, tukiroast hiyo nyama itokagi kama iko na stew. Tukigrill chicken haikujangi kama iko na stew. When we barbecue ribs hazikujangi kama ziko na stew. But kama we are making beef stew, hiyo braised beef, it will come with its liquid. So ile liquid unapika nayo, utaserve nayo, so it will be wet. Ikikuja ni kuroast nyama choma, it will be dry because it has been roasted. So we call them dry methods because they produce dry foods. We call others wet methods or moist methods because they produce moist foods. Now, write another statement down there. All dry foods are served with a sauce. All dry foods are served with a sauce. An example of a sauce ni kama tomato sauce. All dry foods are served with a sauce. Now remember, najua umesoma menu planning. When you're looking at a menu, you look at the texture of the menu, the composition of the menu. How does the menu look like? The palatability of your menu. You cannot produce everything dry without a sauce. Customer atanyongwa. Hawezi kuwa uko na roast beef, uko na french fries, and then uko na buttered carrots. Alafu unapeleka hiyo sahani hivyo kwa customer. Lazima kukue na sauce. At least make to improve or correct the texture of your food. So kama food zako ni dry, you make sure uko na sauce. We usually have some suitable sauces for some foods. Hiyo utasomea kwa menu planning. So kama for example na roast beef, lazima hapo tuone roast beef stroke roast gravy ama thickened gravy. Uko na grilled chicken, you want to see grilled chicken with tomato sauce ama grilled chicken with bread sauce ama grilled chicken with supreme sauce. So lazima kukue na sauce. Kama ni fish, you want to see breadcrumbed fish with tartar sauce. Zisikue chakula zako ni dry, you've cooked them using dry heat, a dry method of cooking, zimekuja zikiwa dry and then you want the customer to eat them the way they are. It is not possible. So tumesema kuna dry methods, kuna wet methods. Let me begin with the dry methods. So write that as your subtopic. Dry methods. Dry methods of cooking. These include, so we are going to mention them, and after mentioning them, we'll now talk about each one of them. So these include roasting, frying. Now tukisema frying, kuna deep frying na kuna shallow frying, but generally we call it frying. Then we talk about them huko ndani. So frying, grilling, I think I've already said roasting and grilling. Now, most of the others, majina hizo zingine zitamezwa na hizo tatu. So roasting, frying, grilling, etc. Now, let us begin with which one? Baking. Sijakwambia baking. So here baking is a dry method of cooking. So roasting, frying, grilling, baking, etc. Now, let's have number one, baking. Number one, baking. Now we know that when we are baking, tukitumia oven, kama ni keki tuna bake, huwa hatuongezi maji kwa keki. It's just the mixture yenye tumetengeneza na tunaweka hapo ndani ya oven. In the oven hatuweki maji. So that is a dry method of cooking. Tuliangalia the three modes of heat transfer, the conduction, radiation, na convection. So write this about baking. This is a dry method of cooking in an oven. This is a dry method of cooking in an oven. Full stop. The dry convection heat is modified by steam. The dry convection heat is modified by steam, which has developed within the oven from the food being cooked. The dry convection heat is modified by steam, which has developed within the oven from the food being cooked. So here we are trying to say when we are baking something, the moisture in that food, kama ni cake vile umemix, ukiweka mayai yako huko ndani na maziwa, hiyo moisture ndio itatumika kama it will be heated by the dry heat in the oven, form the hot air yenye itafanya your product kuiva. Now, let's write purpose of baking. Why do we bake? Why don't we boil cakes? So, purpose of baking. Roman 1. To make food digestible, palatable, and safe to eat. to make food digestible, palatable, and safe to eat. Purpose number 2, Roman 2, to produce an enjoyable eating quality. To produce an enjoyable eating quality. Produce an enjoyable eating quality. Roman 3, to create an eye appeal. In other words, make it appealing to the eyes. To create an eye appeal. Create an eye appeal through color and texture. To create an eye appeal through color and texture. So making that nice brown color, giving it a good texture. Texture means how it looks like the crumb. So to produce an eye appeal or create an eye appeal through color and texture. And then the other reason, the other purpose, to give variety to the menu. To give variety to the menu. What is variety? To bring another choice. So to give variety to the menu. I'm sure in menu planning you've learned that a menu you should vary the methods of cooking. I've said to give variety to the menu. To give variety to the menu. So when you're having a menu, a 3-course menu for this case, you look at the methods of cooking that you have used. You must vary them. For example, you cannot have everything boiled. Again, you cannot have everything braised or everything fried. Lazima tuchanganye the methods of cooking to bring variety. So when you're talking of baking as a way of bringing variety, we are saying it brings another different texture, another different taste into the menu, and that makes your menu nice. Now, I want you to write a question down there. Write short notes on the following methods of baking. Write short notes on the following methods of baking. Now, I know you have the handout, so you will check that handout. You use it to do the work that I'm giving. This is your personal work. You just do it for your own good. So use the handout to do this work that I'm giving. You can as well Google, but once you Google, make sure you are able to filter and use the relevant information. So write short notes on the following methods of baking. A, dry baking. Write short notes on the following methods of baking. A, dry baking. B, baking with increased humidity. Baking with increased humidity. Increased humidity. Baking with increased humidity. And C, you can't hear. Any other person who cannot hear? Lorato James, unanisikia?
Yes, nakusikia.
Then Tabitha and Abdullahi, check your connections. So I have said you use the handouts that I sent for you to be able to to answer the questions that I'm giving, or you can also Google. But I have said if you Google, make sure you filter your information well and get the relevant information. So I've said write short notes. Write short notes on the following methods of baking. A is dry baking. B, baking with increased humidity. Baking with increased humidity. And C, baking with heat modification. Baking with heat modification. Baking with heat modification. Now, down there write a subtopic. Subtopic, suitable foods for baking. Suitable foods for baking. So we are just going to write some examples of foods that we can bake. So here we have cakes, bread, pastries, fruit flans. Flan is F-L-A-N-S. Fruit flans. Another one is tarts. T-A-R-T-S. etc. Now, write a subtopic. Principles of baking. Principles of baking. Now, when I say principles of baking, I mean the things that we do or the things that must be done during baking. The first principle is greasing. Nilishasema what greasing means. I said greasing means doing what? Applying fat or oil or butter to the baking tin. So greasing hyphen usually done to prevent food from sticking onto the tin. Usually done to prevent food from sticking onto the tin. Kama una bake keki na ukose kugrease hiyo tin, ukose kuipaka margarine ama butter ama blue band ama oil, then keki yako itaiva ndio, lakini itakuwa imestick kwa tin, haitaweza kutoka. So ndio uitoe, itabidi itoke iache the outer covering chini na kando, the outer covering zibaki kwa tin, iacho imeshikilia tin kama ugali vile inashikilia sufuria. So for it ndio itoke, then you should do what? Grease the tin. Another principle is loading. Loading. Loading, that is another principle. What is to load? When we talk of loading, now we are talking of putting the food into the oven. Now, it is a principle that we should make sure at any time that the oven is maximally utilized. For example, if we are baking, let's say 5 cakes, it is important tuziweke zote pamoja kwa oven, other than tuna bake moja, tunatoa, tunaweka ingine, inaiva, tunatoa, tunaweka ingine. Kwa nini? Because we want to make maximum use of the oven economically, as we also take care not to waste what? Fuel. So if the oven is large enough, then make sure at any given time it is to maximum capacity. So loading, we write this, the foods being loaded into the oven, the foods being loaded into the oven should be done economically. Should be done economically so as to save on fuel and time. So as to save on fuel and time. Another principle is brushing. 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 Remember we've talked about a preparation method kama egg washing. Now what is brushing? It's either now we're using a pastry brush kupaka. Either kupaka mayai, kupaka butter, kupaka margarine on our baked food before tuiweke ndani ya oven. So brushing. This may occur before baking or after baking. This may occur before baking or after baking. So unaweza kuwa una egg wash, hiyo ni before baking, ama unaweza kuwa you are brushing with butter after baking. Another principle is cooling. 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 Now what is to cool? To cool is like to lower now the temperature. Umetoa kwa oven and because you cannot serve it hot, kama ni cakes, we don't serve them hot, you let them cool to room temperature. So cooling hyphen. Baked foods are usually placed on wire racks. Unaekelea kwa rack ya wire. Usually placed on wire racks. Usually placed on wire racks so that air circulates. So that air circulates your air, the cool air is circulate, you cool your product. So that air circulates. The other principle is finishing. Finishing. Finishing ni kumalizia. Finishing hyphen. This is the final operation. This is the final operation to improve presentation. It is the final operation to improve presentation. Hii ni kama sasa kugarnish cakes, e.g. icing cakes. E.g. icing cakes. Another principle is dusting. Dusting. D-U-S-T-I-N-G. Dusting. This is slight sprinkling of flour. Before baking. Slight sprinkling of flour before baking onto the baking tin. onto the baking tin. So when we talk of dusting the tin, after greasing, ukishaipaka margarine ama butter ama blue band, before uweke hiyo cake mixture hapo ndani, after greasing pia una sprinkle some flour, unga. Hiyo ndio tunaita dusting. So it will help also the product not to stick to the tin. Now, let's have the last subtopic on baking. General rules of baking. General rules of baking. Rule number 1. Always preheat the oven. Always preheat the oven. Nilisema kupreheat ni nini? You switch on the oven when you are still mixing your cake mixture or your flour mixtures, so that if the recipe says bake at 200 degrees, by the time you are done mixing na unaweka kwa tin and you are bringing to the oven is already hot. You do not want to come bring the mixture in, then now you switch on the oven, ianze zero kuheat. That way your product will become spoiled. So always preheat the oven. That is the first rule. Rule number 2. Weighing and measuring ingredients. Weighing and measuring ingredients. Weighing and measuring ingredients, as well as controlling temperatures. Weighing and measuring ingredients, as well as controlling temperatures, should be done correctly. As well as controlling temperatures should be done correctly. So every time you make sure that the temperature is the correct one, you've weighed your ingredients well so that your product can come out the way it should. Rule number 3. Trays and molds. Kuna baking trays. For example, kama unapika, if you are baking bread rolls, zitakuwa bread rolls in one tray. So trays and molds. Molds ni zile zenye zina shape kama ile muffin tin ya cupcakes. Hizo, the shape, the mold of a cup. So trays and molds must be correctly placed. Trays and molds must be correctly placed. So you put them in a way that hakuna trays ziko juu ya zingine ama zingine zinatoka kwa mlango haifungiki. You just make sure you place them correctly inside the oven. Rule number 4. Avoid opening the oven door. Avoid opening the oven door. Full stop. Now, why do you think we should avoid? When we are baking, once we put in our product, huwa inaanza kuraise. Now, at that point, it means that hot air is already circulating in the oven. The moment you open, you may introduce cold air. That cold air is usually known as draught. Once you introduce the cold air, and maybe your product had not set, your product itasink. Kama ni cake, itasink na itaweza kuraise tena. So opening the oven door is going to spoil your product. Rule number 5. The oven space should be utilized efficiently. The oven space should be utilized efficiently. So as we said, kama oven inaweza accommodate like 10 cakes, make sure ukianza kubake unaweka 10 cakes at once. So make sure you are not like baking one at a time and such kind of things, because that is going to affect the time. You're going to waste a lot of time. Two, you are going to use a lot of fuel. So that is all about baking. Let's go to another dry method of cooking. Number 2, frying. Method number 2 is frying. Frying. Now, kufry tunatumia mafuta. Mafuta ni liquid, but it is not going to give us a stew or a soup. It is going to give us a dry product. That's why it is under the dry methods of cooking. Now, this is cooking of food in heated oil or fat. This is cooking of food in heated oil or fat. Full stop. Another statement, it is the quickest method of cooking. It is the quickest method of cooking. So, when we talk about frying, frying is the quickest method of cooking. You can get a question yenye nauliza, give the reason why frying is very popular. Why do people just like frying things? Why is it very popular? It is popular because it is the quickest. You don't need a lot of time, a lot of work. It is just the quickest method of cooking. That's why it is very popular, and that's why most fast foods, they are fried. Chips, sausages, samosas, they are fried. So they are very popular because they don't take time. There are 2 methods of frying. There are 2 methods of frying, namely a shallow frying. Shallow frying. Shallow frying has got another name, so write shallow frying stroke pan frying. Pan frying. Kama una fry pancake, una fry chapati, hiyo ni pan frying na ni shallow frying. And shallow frying is where your food is not covered in oil, haujaingiza kwa mafuta. You're just putting a little oil. So shallow frying hyphen. This is cooking using a wide shallow pan. This is cooking using a wide shallow pan. Then we have B, deep frying. Deep. Sasa hapa ni kama una fry samosa, una fry mandazi. Deep frying unatumia mafuta nyingi, unaweka ndani. Your food is immersed in oil. So, deep frying, right? Here food is completely immersed into the hot fat. Here, the food is completely immersed into the hot fat. Let's have another subtopic. Qualities of food to be fried. Qualities of food to be fried. Qualities of food to be fried. In other words, you are saying rules of the food that is going to be fried. Whether deep frying or shallow frying, how should that food be for it to be fit for frying? And in this case, we are talking of both of them, whether it is pan frying or it is deep frying. Rule number 1, quality number 1. The food should be 1 inch. The food should be 1 inch. Now, why are we saying 1 inch? Because if it is too thick, haitaiva ndani. Remember, it is a quick method of cooking. Mafuta ni moto. itaiva tu juu, ndani haitaiva. Now if it is too thin, because of the high heat, itakauka. That's why sometimes some people will cook chapati ikauke ikuwe kama kuni. Kwa nini? Because waliroll ikakuwa too thin, ama mandazi inakauka. Another quality, number 2, the food should be covered by a starchy substance. The food should be covered by a starchy substance. By a starchy substance. That is why when we are frying something like fish fillet, when we are deep frying fish fillet, huwa tuna coat na breadcrumbs, ama when you are making fish fingers, we coat with breadcrumbs ama with butter. Another quality, the food must be covered gently. No, must be lowered. Sorry. The food must be lowered gently into the fat to prevent spillage. The food must be lowered gently into the fat to prevent spillage. Kama una fry kitu, the food that you are supposed to fry, the food must be lowered gently. The food must be lowered gently into the fat to prevent spillage. So if you are frying something, you are supposed to immerse it slowly. Usitupe kwa mafuta, because if you throw it into the fat, then the fat is going, or the oil is going to spill all over, and that one can cause a burn, it can cause fire, it can cause a scald. Subtopic, we are talking about the qualities of food to be fried. Qualities of the food to be fried. The food that we are going to fry. Now, ama the rules on the foods to be fried. Another rule, there should be enough fat in the pan to cover the food. I don't know whether I have told you that. There should be enough fat in the pan to cover the food. Cover the food halfway. To cover the food halfway. Then the last one, the last point. The last point. Most foods should be drained on an absorbent paper. Most foods should be drained. They should be drained Most foods should be drained on an absorbent paper after frying. On an absorbent paper after frying, and should be served very hot. On an absorbent paper after frying, and should be served very hot. So what are we trying to say here? We are trying to say, once you fry the food, uipitishe kwa absorbent paper. We also call it grease-proof paper. Drain hiyo mafuta, usiserve na mafuta mingi. And again, we are saying it should be served hot. Now, the next subtopic that I'm going to talk about. Rules for deep frying. Rules for deep frying. Rules for deep frying. So what are the rules you should follow when you are specifically deep frying food? Now, not shallow frying, deep frying. Rule number one. Rule number one. Any wet food, e.g. potatoes, any wet food, e.g. potatoes, should be drained well before frying. Any wet food, e.g. potatoes, should be drained well before frying. In other words, usiweke chakula iko na maji. Kama ni potatoes, you are making chips, make sure kama uliziosha na ukazikausha, ukadrain hiyo maji completely. Do not put them in oil when they are still having water. Another rule, fat should always be strained after use. Fat should always be strained after use. Kustrain ni kama kuchunga. You remove any foreign material. Fat should always be strained after use. Another rule, all foods must be coated. All foods must be coated with butter. Hapa ni butter ya BA. BATTER. Now this butter means ile mix inakaa ya pancake, unga, mafuta, egg na maziwa, and then salt or sugar depending on what you are coating. So all foods must be coated with butter, eggs or breadcrumbs. Butter, eggs or breadcrumbs, unless it is as a self-starch. Unless it is a self-starch. Kama ni starch, kama samosa, kama mandazi, kama potato, you don't need to coat. But the other things like fish fillet, like chicken, hizo ukitaka kudeep fry, lazima zikuwe coated. We are going to see the reasons for coating. Another rule, do not fry too much food in the fat. Do not fry too much food in the fat. Like if you've tried frying chips kwa pan ama kwa sufuria, ukiweka nyingi huwa haziivi haraka and then zinakuwa soggy, zinaanza kusoak mafuta. So always make sure kuna space, you don't have excess. Another rule, fat should not be allowed to smoke. Fat should not be allowed to smoke, as this is a sign of burning. Fat should not be allowed to smoke, as this is a sign of burning. This is a sign of burning and possible fire. And possible fire. What is to smoke? Usiache mafuta ichemke hadi inatoa smoke. It means already mafuta inaungua. And the next step after that ni moto kuwaka jikoni. So do not allow fat to smoke. Another rule, allow the fat to be preheated. Jason, allow the fat to be preheated. allow the fat to be preheated before adding the next batch. Of food. Now, what does that statement mean? Let's say una fry mandazi ama una fry chips, umeweka mara ya kwanza, that is the first batch, zimeiva, umetoa. Now what we are saying, ukishatoa, give the oil some time iendelee kukua moto tena, because the temperature had already been lowered by the potatoes. So we give it some little time ikue moto tena. Now you can put the next batch. Another rule, the fat should be heated between 175 to 195 degrees Celsius. The fat should be heated between 175 to 195 degrees Celsius. The last rule when deep frying, to avoid any risk of fire, the pan should be filled with not more than 2/3 of the oil. To avoid any risk of fire, the pan should be filled with not more than 2/3 of the oil. Not more than 2/3 of the oil. So in other words, usijaze pan mafuta, because ikijaa, it means any moment you put in food, mafuta ina spill over na inawaka moto. Those are the rules. I think you have like 7 or 8 rules for deep frying. My next subtopic, effects of frying. Effects of frying. So in other words, what happens to the food when we fry it? Whether we deep fry or we shallow fry, what happens to it? Effect number 1. Effect number 1 of frying. The nutritional content will be changed. The nutritional content will be changed as some of the frying items. The nutritional content will be changed as some of the frying contents ama frying items, some of the frying items will be absorbed by the food being fried. Some of the frying items will be absorbed by the food being fried. So here the nutritional content is going to change. For example, una fry potatoes na unatumia mafuta. The potatoes are going to absorb some oil. That is why potato is classified as junk, because iko na mafuta mingi, imeabsorb mafuta mingi. Ama una deep fry fish fillet, umeikot na unga, mayai na breadcrumbs. So as you eat it, you'll also be eating the egg content, the flour, the breadcrumbs. So you find you're not only eating fish fillet on its own, iko na vitu zingine. So the nutritional content lazima itabadilika. Another effect, high temperatures prevent the escape of natural juices. High temperatures prevent the escape of natural juices. Because of the instant coagulation. Coagulation is hardening of proteins. Because of the instant coagulation of the food. Instant coagulation of the food. So that is another effect. When you are frying something, you find that the surface pale juu kuna kuaga kuko crunchy. Kwa nini kuko crunchy? Because the moment you put it in the hot oil, the surface ama hapo juu, the coating of the food, kama ni chicken, kama ni fish, whatever that you put in hot oil, ili harden. So when it hardens, inside it will be soft, but outside is hard because of the high heat of the oil. The other effect, number 3, effect number 3, deep fried items which are heated or coated, deep fried items which are heated or coated, seal the surface by coagulation. To seal, kuseal ni kama kufunga, S-E-A-L. Seal the surface by coagulation of the protein, with minimum absorption of fat. I have said deep fried items which are heated or coated. Now when I say heated or coated, namaanisha nini? Kuna zenye utaweka kwa mafuta, they are not coated. Hizo ziko tu heated. There are others you've already coated, kama umecoat na breadcrumbs, lakini bado unaweka wapi? Kwa mafuta. So which are heated or coated, seal the surface. Kuseal nimesema ni kufunga, S-E-A-L. Seal the surface by coagulation of the protein. By coagulation of the protein with minimum absorption of fat. With minimum absorption of fat. Full stop. So ikisha seal the coating pale juu, inamaanisha hakuna mafuta nyingi itaingia ndani. Now, write this subtopic. Coatings used for fried foods. Coatings used for fried foods. In other words, which items do we use to coat our foods? I've already mentioned some, kama breadcrumbs, kama butter, kama mayai. So those are the things we are going to see. Coatings used for fried foods. Our first coating, number 1, is seasoned flour. Flour ni unga. Seasoned flour. Kuseason ni kupatia kitu flavor ama taste. So when we say seasoned flour, sometimes like when you are having pan-fried fish fillet, see deep fried, pan-fried. Usually the recipe says pass it through seasoned flour. So unachukua unga, unai-season, like unaiweka salt, lemon, chenye unataka kuiweka ya kuseason. And then unapitisha hiyo fish hapo juu, hiyo fillet. Then sasa unaweka wapi? kwa pan. So seasoned flour hyphen. This may be used for shallow frying. So as you can see, because it is dry, shallow frying, this may be used for shallow frying. Another coating, number 2, eggs and breadcrumbs. Mayai, eggs and breadcrumbs. Now I am hoping that you know breadcrumbs zinauzwa kwa supermarket and you can also make for yourself. Now breadcrumbs huwa tunazitumia kucoat sana sana nyama like fillet ama chicken. Now ndio hizo breadcrumbs zishikilie kwa nyama, huwa hiyo nyama kwanza tuna dip kwa mayai. Now the purpose of the egg ni kuifanya ikuwe sticky so that when we roll it over breadcrumbs, hizo breadcrumbs zinaweza fanya nini? Kustick on the surface of the fillet or the meat. So eggs and breadcrumbs hyphen. It is suitable for particular foods, especially the ones deep fried. It is suitable for particular foods, especially the ones deep fried. Then the last thing that we use to coat, number 3, butter. B-A-T-T-E-R. Butter. B-A-T-T-E-R. Now, I have already said that butter is a liquid mixture yenye inakaa kama mixture ya kupika pancake. Iko na maziwa, iko na unga, iko na yai, such kind of things. So inatumika kucoat. This is used for fish fillets. This is used for fish fillets and fritters. This is used for fish fillets and fritters. Butter hyphen. This is used for fish fillets. Yes, like the one used for bhajia, that one, hiyo ndio butter. Used for fish fillets and fritters. Now, my last subtopic for today, because I know you are tired. Reasons for coating food. So why do we coat our food before we deep fry? Reasons for coating food. There is a very common question in production yenye itakuja, reasons for coating food before deep frying. So we have those 3 coatings that we use. We have eggs. Yes, to prevent the food from being oily, that is very correct. So we coat our food for various reasons. We have like 5 or 6 reasons. So ya kwanza tumepewa na Abdullahi to avoid the food from being oily. But now this is how I want us to put it, to prevent the food from becoming soggy with fat. To prevent the food from becoming soggy with fat. Isikue oily, isikunywe mafuta. To prevent the food from becoming soggy with fat. Now, another reason, to protect the food. To protect the food from extreme heat of the oil. Protect the food from extreme heat of the oil. So kama mafuta ni moto sana, also you're going to protect the surface of the food. Another one, number 3, to prevent food juices from escaping. To prevent food juices from escaping. When we prevent the food juices ni hizo maji ziko ndani ya nyama, the moisture inside, ndio ukipika that your food will still be soft, hata kama hapo juu ni ngumu, but ndani it's still succulent, it's not tough and dry. So prevent food juices from escaping. Another reason, number 4, to prevent food from breaking up during cooking. Point number 2 was to protect food from extreme heat from the oil. Protect food from extreme heat of the oil. Protect the food from extreme heat of the oil. Then point number 3, we've said prevent food juices from escaping. Prevent food juices from escaping. And now we are on number 4 or number 5, whichever. To prevent food from breaking up during cooking. Ndio chakula yako isivunjike isikatike. Something like fish fillet is usually very soft, inaweza katika ndani ya mafuta. So to avoid that, once you coat it, huwa inaiva ikiwa imeshikana vizuri. So prevent food from breaking up during cooking. Another reason, number 5 now, to make food more attractive. Make food more attractive. So that coating inapatiaga a very nice brown color. It looks attractive, to make food more attractive. The last reason, number 6, to prevent the fat from absorbing, yes, the nice brown gold color, to prevent the fat from absorbing moisture, to prevent the fat from absorbing moisture from the food, to prevent the fat from absorbing moisture from the food, thus fastening cooking. To prevent the fat from absorbing moisture from the food, thus fastening cooking. To prevent the fat from absorbing moisture from the food, thus fastening cooking. So here we are trying to say, when we coat food, it makes the fat not to lower the cooking temperature, because it is not going to come into contact with the moisture or the wetness of the food itself, because the food is already coated. So that makes the cooking procedure easier, or the cooking time is fastened. So that is the end of frying, which is our method number 2 when it comes to the dry methods of cooking, and I have said that is where I am stopping for today. So next week we'll continue and we'll start with method number 3, which is roasting. So write roasting, that is where we'll begin. Roasting, make sure you write it so that you are able to remind me. I teach production in many intakes, so I might confuse you for another one. Now, do we have questions on preparation and cooking methods up to where we are now? Maswali? Tuulize maswali kama yako. Now, remember we have said I need you a cut 1 before the end of tomorrow. Tomorrow ends at tomorrow midnight. So make sure you send to my email cut 1. And I think kuna watu hawajatuma assignment 1. And make sure when you are doing your assignment, hapo kuna admission number. Part 1 iko hapa kwa ZDS ama hapo kwa model. Ukifungua tu production, ukiangalia penye tulisoma last week, hapo ndio nilipaste tu last week. Hata assignment 1 iko hapo na pia iko kwa WhatsApp group. Assignment 1, I personally send it to your WhatsApp group. So I'm also going to send that Cat 1 hapo kwa hiyo WhatsApp group. So you're going to send that work to my email address, the address that I gave last week. The same address where you send assignment 1, hapo ndio unatuma Cat 1. Now, I have said coagulation is the hardening of proteins as a result of high heat. The hardening of proteins as a result of high heat. The reason why ukifry mayai inakuwa ngumu, inakuwa solid. Ama ukiweka nyama kwa mafuta unasikia kale ka sauti. And then unapata hapo juu pameturn brownish na paka harden. Hiyo ndio inaitwa coagulation. Coagulation. Hardening of proteins due to high heat. Hiyo ndio tunaita coagulation. So vile protein ukiweka kwa moto huwa ina harden. It becomes a solid. And why does it become a solid? It becomes a solid on the surface to protect the inside. Utapata hapo juu ni ngumu hivyo, but ndani it is still juicy because it quickly hardened when it was exposed to heat. So that is what we call coagulation. Sawa. Any other question? So for assignment 1, I saw that you did a good job, and especially I gave that on purpose. It was on topic 1. I know most of you missed the class. You only found the recording. So make sure all those the classes that you missed is look at those handouts word for word and make your own short note. I'm going to be sending a lot of assignments based on the parts that you missed so that you are able to familiarize yourself with the chapters that we already covered. So I'm hoping there is no other question. Any other question? All right, you're welcome. So see you next week for us to continue with the methods of cooking. But then again, from now onwards, tomorrow, I'll be expecting the cat. Make sure you read a lot because production is very wide, especially when it comes to testing of questions. So it can look like the normal things, the things you know, but when they start asking questions, the questions are usually deep. So you need to have like a proper understanding of what production is and what it deals with. So make sure you thoroughly read your notes, and especially the notes that I specifically give you. You have the handout, yes, but there could be some missing things in those handouts. Ni sawa, uliza topic 1. Factors to consider when designing a kitchen. Which factor has a problem? Oh yes, if you are told to discuss, for example, kama ni space. For example, in space, the question can never be list, by the way. It can never be list. It will always be discuss, ama explain, ama describe. So for example, let's say in space, you're going to talk about you design the kitchen according to the space available. There are the designs that will be favorable for a small kitchen and other designs favorable for a large kitchen. So that is how common space, that is how you explain. So make sure you are able to discuss each and every point or each and every factor. You will rarely find anything to list for your information. It will always be define this, discuss this, explain this. Yeah. So you must be having, you just explain using your own words, but relevant to the content. And that way you are good to go. Also about kitchen equipment, I'm thinking of giving you a term paper on kitchen equipment, or rather let me call it an assignment or a cut about kitchen equipment, because kitchen equipment is wide. You've seen the handout, you've seen the 3 categories, but then you've also seen that there is care and maintenance. Now you can get a question on the care and maintenance of anything. You can even be told, describe the procedure of cleaning an oven, or describe the procedure of cleaning a wooden chopping board, or even discuss the care and maintenance of a weighing scale. Anything in the kitchen you can be asked. That's why when we are dealing with kitchen equipment, I prefer giving students the liberty of do a research on kitchen equipment, large kitchen equipment, small kitchen equipment, and the labor saving equipment. And then under each of them, you tell me the uses and also the care and maintenance. So when we come to the care and maintenance, that's why you tell me how it is cleaned: daily cleaning, weekly cleaning, special cleaning, ama periodic cleaning. But I will give you that work later, not now. Right now, just concentrate on Cat 1 and also concentrate on the things that you missed. So going back from topic 1 all the way, what you missed, and then you'll be able to talk about the rest. So that is all. See you next week, God willing. Okay, likewise.